Hello, everybody. Kenny Overton here, your host of Black Opera Live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Monday to you all. I hope everybody is out there doing well in social media land. I hope you're taking care of yourself and wearing your masks and washing your hands. I'm sure y'all are not still singing happy birthday, counting to 20 while you're washing your hands, but you better start doing it again. We're not in the clear in this pandemic. But thank you for joining us. I am so crazy excited tonight to have three of the most amazing women I have ever met in my life. Three of the most amazing singers, performers, human beings, singing actresses that I have ever had the pleasure to meet and have private time with and to share the stage with. I am so honored that Priscilla Baskerville, Roberta Laws, and Marquita Lister are here on Black Opera Live tonight. So before we bring the ladies into the room, I wanted to take a minute, really take a minute and tell you about all three of them. I know, sometimes we do abbreviated bios of some of the current singers that are singing a lot today because you can just click a button on Google and find out who they are. But I want to really read a lot of these accomplishments of these esteemed women, okay? So first we have Priscilla Baskerville, born in Brooklyn, New York. Come on, Brooklyn. A versatile spinto soprano, she has an ever-expanding repertoire that reaches from Wagner to Verdi to Puccini. She has appeared in leading opera houses in North America, South America, and around the world, including the Metropolitan Opera, where she performed the title role of Aida and the title role of Bess and Musetta in Puccini's La Bohème. She revived the role of Aida in other opera houses such as Arizona, the Scottish Opera, Minnesota, and North Carolina. Performing both roles of Verdi's Leonoras, both Trovatore and Forza del Destino, Miss Baskerville has been a favorite of opera companies all over the planet. Amongst her concert engagements, they include symphony orchestras of Atlanta, the Napa Valley, San Antonio, North Carolina, San Francisco, Scotland, Uruguay, Buenos Aires, and so many others. Miss Baskerville has had the honor of participating in two of Anthony Davis's operas, The Life and Times of Malcolm X, performing the roles of Louise and Betty Shabazz in the workshop in Philadelphia and presented in full production at the New York City Opera. She was also in Amistad, which was commissioned by the Lyric Opera of Chicago, where she performed the role of the Goddess of Water. Miss Baskerville is also a versatile diva. She sings all of the genres and does it so well, and has also appeared on Broadway in Sophisticated Ladies and film credits that include The Cotton Club. I am so honored to have her here. It's just outrageous. Miss Roberta Laws. Soprano Roberta Laws also hails from Brooklyn, New York. Come on now, Brooklyn be producing the throats. Okay, come on, Brooklyn. She has earned both of her bachelor and master's degrees in vocal performance from the Boston Conservatory of Music. She has graced audiences worldwide on both opera and concert stages, including the San Francisco Opera, Los Angeles Opera, San Diego, Seattle, Dallas, Portland, Anchorage, Opera Carolina, Opera Grand Rapids, and the Kennedy Center. She was also a soloist in the choral ensemble of the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater's signature work of Revelations. Her operatic roles include Puccini's Suor Angelica in Suor Angelica, Giorgetta in Il Tabarro, Mimi and Musetta in La Bohème, Madama Butterfly title role, Liu in Puccini's Turandot, Iris and Suzelle in Mascagni's Iris and Lenico Fritz, Adriana in Chile's Adriana Le Couvreur, and Marguerite in Boito's Mephistopheles, and Madame Lidouin and Poulenc's La Dialogue de Carmelite. Miss Laws has sung internationally the houses in Mexico, Italy, Germany, Sweden, Switzerland, Finland, Spain, the Netherlands, Romania, Bucharest, South Africa, South America. I mean, the woman is just unstoppable, just unstoppable. Miss Laws' concert career also includes appearances with Philadelphia and Cincinnati Pops, as well as the Philadelphia Orchestra, Naples and the Rochester Philharmonic, and the Chicago at Ravinia, Detroit, Alabama, Pacific, Savannah, Virginia, Indianapolis, Winnipeg, and Charleston symphonies. Listen, if y'all ain't tired from hearing that, get your tails in the studio and get to work. Miss Marquita Lister. Marquita Lister has earned worldwide and critical praise for the past 2 decades for an impressive repertoire that includes the masterworks of Verdi, Strauss, Puccini, and Gershwin. Miss Lister has sung with major opera companies such as the San Francisco Opera, Houston Grand Opera, l'Opéra de Montreal, Teatro Colón in Buenos Aires, the Festspielhaus in Salzburg, La Scala, Semper Opera in Dresden, Stuttgart, Arena di Verona, Deutsche Oper Berlin, Opera Bastille in Paris, Michigan Opera Theater, and that is just to name a few. She has performed with world-renowned artists, including the likes of Placido Domingo, Justino Diaz, Frederica von Stade, Simon Estes, and Cheryl Milnes. Her convincing performances of the role of Bess, particularly at New York City Opera, it won her an Emmy nomination for that production, and it earned her the New York City Opera Diva Award. Miss Lister also received the Artist of the Year Award from the Pittsburgh Opera and has appeared in television broadcast productions of An Evening with the Pops with Maestro Keith Lockhart and the Boston Pops, A Christmas Celebration with the Dallas Symphony, and Live from Lincoln Center broadcast. In the recording studio, Miss Lister has recorded George Gershwin's Blue Monday and excerpts from Porgy and Bess for the Telarc Records with Maestro Eric Kunzel and the Cincinnati Pops, which was Grammy nominated. The Chamber of Music of Edward Knight on Albany Records, and the critically acclaimed Porgy and Bess recording on the Decca label, which was hailed by Opera News as one of the best recordings of 2016. In 2012, Miss Lister recorded composer Michael Ching's contribution to the Opera America Songbook, commissioned for the opening celebrations of the National Opera Center right here in New York. Miss Lister is currently collaborating with soprano Louise Toppin to pioneer the African American art song and arrange Negro spirituals for a New Generation project. The project received the 2008 Thomas Hampton Award by the American Musicological Society. Ms. Lister is currently the coordinator of vocal studies and the director of opera at the Morgan State University. Listen, folks, these women are incredible, and I am honored that they all said yes to join me here tonight and to share their experiences with you. So before we meet them, here's a little video presentation of all three. See you in a minute. And now, please welcome everybody to the Black Opera Live show. Marquita Lister, Roberta Laws, and Priscilla Baskerville. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you? Okay, I am so excited to have. I'm like jumping out of my seat that all of you are here at the same time. You look gorgeous, all of you, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
Thank you.
You.
And you sound fantastic. And what I loved the most was um, to the audience, I can see them while they were listening to themselves sing, and they were all in their heads singing and thinking and remembering. I just love it. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
And praying.
I was wondering is how did you make that fry sound during the Cotton Club piece? That was amazing.
Amazing.
You had this beautiful, ethereal, gorgeous sound. And then you went into this thing where your voice was imitating the instrument, that rah, rah. I mean, how did you do that and still go back to that gorgeous sound?
I don't know.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I mean, it's just something that I was imitating the trumpet, you know. I mean, it's just something that came out of my mouth. I was like, oh, okay. So we and you know, she had done something similar to that. Adelaide. Oh my God, I forget the last name. The one who did it originally. She had a similar, softer kind of thing to that. Mine came out kind of growly. I said, okay, well, we'll just keep that. And,
well, it worked.
It worked. Amazing.
Amazing. Yeah, really.
Yeah. Anyone else's chords would have been on the floor.
On the floor.
And done and finished.
Yeah.
And I have no more to give you. And then you just go ahead and go back into that thing. And spin tone.
I don't know. I've just been very blessed that I haven't lost my vocal cords on it. But I just want to tell you all that you all are just absolutely amazing. I just loved seeing your work and how you do things, because we hardly ever, sometimes if we're doing the same role, you know, we have to sit out and watch. But just to sit down as an observer and just your work is just absolutely, you all are wonderful. Thank you all so much. I'm so glad for this. Oh, my little kid. Oh, my little baby. She's hi, Lucy. I'm sorry.
There's a whole lot of love coming at y'all tonight, and
so I see.
I want you to receive it all because you are worthy of it all. And you know, my grandmother always says, "Give me my flowers while I'm here." So hopefully tonight you will receive some bouquets of flowers from all the people out in social media land, because you are so worthy of it.
Thank
so.
you.
We know that the other two ladies are from Brooklyn. So Marquita, we'll start with you. Where did you grow up, and how did music, particularly classical music, come into your life?
Well, I am a native Washingtonian, you know, truly a Washingtonian, born and raised in Washington, D.C. And my mother was, or still is, very much a classical opera fanatic. And she also loved gospel music. And so growing up, we listened to the Texaco broadcasts. And I heard who else but the great Leontine Price on the radio. And I remember saying to my mother, I was about 6 years old. And my mother tells me this story all the time. You know, I said, "Oh, Mom, who's that?" And she said, "It's a wonderful African-American soprano by the name of Leontine Price." And I said, "I can do that." And of course, as every mother would say, "Of course you can, darling."
Yes,
you can, baby.
To do. And of course, as time went on, she would take me to the Metropolitan Opera to see productions, and we would see things when they were in town. And on the opposite hand, my father was a jazz fanatic, so I would go with him to see jazz things. And in the long run, my mother was not the least bit surprised when she found out that I really wanted to be an opera singer. So I started my formal training when I was 13 years old.
Really?
Yes, I was 13 years old, and I was doing Nats by the time I was 14 years old. And the next thing I knew it, I was at New England Conservatory. And actually, it was at New England Conservatory where I met Miss Roberta Laws, who was at Boston Conservatory.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. So, Roberta, take us from your journey. How was it growing up in Brooklyn? What was the family makeup like, and how did this crazy opera life come to you?
I did not choose opera. It chose me. I had experience with classical music because my mother and father insisted that I take piano lessons at the age of 6.
Uh-huh.
And I took piano lessons until my piano teacher and I had a parting of the ways. But then, I just kept on. But in my church, my father was a pastor of a very prominent church in Brooklyn. And as Priscilla will tell you, not just Harlem, but Brooklyn was known for its prominent churches, pastors, and their choirs. And so I was singing classical music. I was singing Inflammatus. I was singing Mozart's I Will Give Thanks without really knowing what I was doing. I didn't really know what this instrument was. I'm just singing because I love to sing. And I was in high school when my high school choral teacher said to me, "You have something special." And I said, "Okay." And she said, what do you want to do with your life?" And I said, "I've never wanted to do anything but sing." And so then she prepared me for my audition to different schools. And I got accepted to Boston Conservatory and New England Conservatory. And I got accepted to some other schools. But I went to Boston Conservatory. I chose Boston Conservatory because it was a college of music, drama, and dance. And I loved the whole collaboration of all of the arts together. Mm-hmm. And I also went to Boston Conservatory because my guidance counselor told me I couldn't. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Oh." So when I got my master's degree, I went back to visit her.
Hi,
it
ma'am.
was lovely.
Hi, ma'am.
And then I was really just studying because I loved to sing, didn't know where I was going, none of that. And one day I was ushering. I ushered for everything. I went to everything. And it was the Ballad of Baby Doe. It was their production at Boston Conservatory. And Janice Hall and Kathleen Lamy were singing the title roles of Baby Doe. And I don't know which night it was, but it was one of those nights. And I was standing in the back and they were singing the final act aria of that. And I promise you, it was like somebody tapped me on my shoulder. And I went in the next day. I was then a junior in college and told my teacher, Iride Pila, I want to do this for the rest of my life. And I never looked back. So that's my story.
Wow. Amazing. Miss Priscilla, what about you? Miss Brooklyn, how did all this singing, this classical singing come into your world?
Isn't it something how we are all going a different route to get to this production that you put together? So I'm a product of Brooklyn, New York, with Brooklyn Public Schools, all these things, and then I think my mom tells it that she got a vision before I was born that I was going to sing. My mom knew I was going to be a singer, so I think that was the beginning. And then at 2 years old, I think I must have been in love with Nat King Cole because I actually took his song and serenaded everybody on the bus with "Ain't it late? Ain't it great?" And they all applauded. So that was my first test of applause.
There you go. That was your debut.
That was my debut. And then I went from there to the Girl Scouts and whatnot. So they let me sing. They set me out to do a couple of solos. And so again, applause. That's when I'm older. And then I was still like only 11 or 12 years old then. But then when I went to, my elementary school, I got a couple of things to do there in their little musicals in Brooklyn there. And so then I went to junior high school and I wasn't in the classes that had music. I was in the classes where they had language. And so because I wasn't in those classes, the music teachers did not give me any applications to go to like all borough and all city chorus because you have to have that in order to audition. And so I just decided to just take myself there without that application with other friends who were going. And when they all got called, because they all had invitations and they had their little letters and they had their where they're supposed to go, I had nothing. So when they all parted from the assembly, we were sitting in this auditorium, and I was by myself. And so Mr. Elmer Yearwood, who was in the public school system, along with Dr. John Motley, and they were like very close. And he saw me sitting there. He said, "Go to room 110." Like I hadn't heard that. "Go to room 110. I said, "But I don't." He said, "I said, go to room 110. He yelled at me. I got up and I went to room 110 without, and I that started me all borough, all city with Mr. Motley, and my whole. Then I was one of only, I think, one. All of us who auditioned for music and art in my junior high school, I think it was just myself and another instrumentalist that made it into music and art. So then I went to music and art for the best 3 years of my life. And then from there to Manhattan School of Music. I listen, I said, if I'm going to do this, if I'm any good, I only need to apply one place. And I did. I applied to Manhattan School of Music, and that was it. So I did Manhattan School of Music and graduated from there with a master's in education, a bachelor's in music, but a master's in education.
Okay. Okay.
Stuck.
A little stuck. Okay. So Marquita, while at New England Conservatory, was it?
Yeah.
Did you do like any roles or anything? Like, what was the preparation like, and did it sort of mirror what the career actually looked like once you left school? What was the conservatory education like for you?
Well, this is really an excellent question, and I'm sure Roberta will be able to identify with this. When at New England Conservatory, you had to do 2 years of choir, and I was with Laura Cook DeVaron, and Laura Cook DeVaron had an excellent choir. And one of the people who she often had there was Robert Shaw. And we were also the choir for the Boston Symphony Orchestra. So it was actually there that I started a very incredible education where opera singers are concerned, because they brought in people like Jesse Norman, Shirley Verrett, Marilyn Horne. The list goes on and on and on. And if I was not singing in those performances, I would always sneak in. I always would have some kind of sob story as why I didn't have a ticket. So that, and because I was a student, they would let me in. Oh, but you have to be quiet and you have to stand in the back. And I would carefully listen to what those singers were doing. What was it about them that I thought was so incredible? And I had a little notebook that I wrote all that stuff down in. What was it about Shirley Verrett that was so amazing to me? What was it about Jesse Norman? What was it about all these singers? And do you know, I kept that notebook my entire career.
Wow.
My entire career, I kept that notebook to remind myself of what it is that I wanted to be as an artist.
Yeah.
And so when I was at New England Conservatory, going back to the original question, I did 2 years of the choir, then I did 1 year of the extension opera program that they had.
Okay.
Because I was not old enough. I went to New England Conservatory when I was 17. So I wasn't old enough to be in the opera program. I wasn't ready. So I did 1 year of this extension program where we did a lot of scene work, and I could get in contact with my body and figure out how to learn scenes. And like Priscilla, I have always loved language. So it was a time for me to really delve into language and figure out what I liked about it and didn't like about it. And also, while I was at New England Conservatory, I studied both Italian and German at the same time.
Gotcha.
Very difficult, but I wanted to challenge myself. So when I got into the opera program that was headed by John Moriarty, I loved it, but it was terrifying for me
Mm.
It was terrifying for me because I wondered if I was really ready. Was I really ready? I was the youngest person in the program. And John Moriarty was he was a taskmaster. He was really tough on us. But let me tell you something. Thank God he was.
Right.
You know, as I did 3 years in that program, and it was actually my second year that he actually paid a lot of attention to me, and he became my mentor. And he wrote all those diction books, as you know. So he was a magnificent pianist, and he really was hard on me. I thought he hated me. I remember one Saturday he called me. We were doing, I don't know, The Scarf or some obscure opera, and it was on a moving stage. And I was very uncomfortable on that moving stage. And he called me one Saturday. He said, Marquita, this is John. I want you to come down to the theater. And I thought, oh my God, why is he calling me down to the theater? Oh no. And when I got down there, he made me run on that moving theater.
Oh.
Just run and run and run until I got angry about it. And when I got angry, I said, I'm so tired of running on. Why do you have me run? He says, good. Now you are ready to do this. Now you are showing your own personality. Now you can put your stamp on this. He said, you are such a nice church girl. I need for you to be tougher. I need for you to have point to your elbows in the sense that you can stand up for yourself and that you have a voice for yourself as an artist. And the next year that you're in this program, I am going to push you, and I'm going to push you hard. And he did. And as a result of that, I won a lot of competitions, one of which was the Met competition. I was a national semifinalist for the Met competition. I was only like 21 or 22 years old. You know, he was instrumental, I think, in starting that burning fire in what kind of work it was going to take to be, you know, an artist of any kind of level. And especially the level that I said I wanted to be. You know, it was never I never said, oh, I want to be a star.
Right.
What I always said was, I want to be the best that I can be. And I want to enjoy the moments that I have. And that I hope that someday I can give back to somebody. That's the way I've always been when it came to this. Because I realized that stardom is not something that easily comes. And there's a lot that goes with that.
And isn't that what education is supposed to be about? We're supposed to have the teachers and the administrators and the coaches and the faculty there to push you, to support you, to try and get the very, very, very best out of you. And it's amazing that you had that experience as a young Black woman in a conservatory in New England.
Where there were very few of us.
I'm sure it was very few. So what about you, Roberta? Did you have something similar in Boston? Because honestly, Boston, I didn't see a lot of color at all when I was there singing myself. So I can imagine.
No, not at all. And New England Conservatory is literally around the corner from Boston Conservatory. And once again, my experience was very similar to Marquita's, because at the time that I was in Boston Conservatory, John Moriarty was at Boston Conservatory. And I loved language. When I was in high school, I chose to study French as my foreign language, mostly because my sister had done that. And you always want to do what your big sister does. So that when I got to the conservatory and I had Italian, French, and German, French can be just brutal. It's so difficult, but it was easier for me because I had already had that experience. But being a junior and coming into my senior year of at the conservatory, I know that my teacher, Iride Pila, was afraid that I was just going to graduate and leave and never fall in love with opera. So the day that I walked in after seeing Baby Doe and say, I want to do this for the rest of my life, she burst into tears. And I thought to myself, oh Lord, well, ooh, what does that mean? What have I done? Is my future that bleak? And she said to me, I've never had a freshman, because she didn't take freshmen, but she took me, and she took me in her hands, and she poured into me, and she protected me. she told me the first day I came in there, she said, your journey to where you're going will be long because you have much to learn. I was 17, and it'll be a minute before you come into your own. And so she said, no, I'd never had a freshman come in that I would thought was so ready and so suited for the stage. And she said, and I thought you were going to leave here and not fall in love with it.
Wow.
So I then went and auditioned for opera workshop.
Okay.
I'm going to close my blinds because the sun is setting. I've got something going across my face. But anyway, and John Moriarty turned and said to her, well, where you been hiding her? And so that was the beginning. And I just, besides the singing, I love the theater. I still am. I'm so passionate about the character and what that character has to say, and how it's intertwined in the story, and what does the composer mean, and what is my personal connection to that character. So that was my that was how John and I had this relationship and this dance that we always did. He said he had never had anybody that was so young, that was so in touch with their emotions and not afraid to put it out there on stage. I was different than Marquita. I was never shy. So when I was on stage, I was happiest. And so we formed this bond, and we did 2 operas a year. The January opera was always the lighter opera. And he said, you have the larger, warmer voice. You're going to do the opera in the spring. So I took that time to learn about lighting and costuming and be a prop mistress. I wanted to know all phases of the theater. And so I took the time to do that. And then, like Marquita, I went my senior year and auditioned for the Met. And did the Met regionals. And my teacher said, this would be a good thing for you to do. It give you good experience, and yet it can't hurt you. And I remember being on stage, and they were calling out the names. And I was so busy. I was applauding. I was so happy for everybody. And then they said, and second place winner, Roberta Laws. I went, oh, that's me. But then a different type of pressure came on, and then 2 years after that, after being out of the Met auditions, I came back, and I was fortunate enough to win the regionals and then go to the nationals as well. And George Shirley was the judge that year. And he encouraged me, and he said, you have something special, and they won't always know what to do with you, but that's their problem. And so it just, that's the way it began. But I just, what I love is I love theater. I love singing. Don't get me wrong. And it's the ultimate expression to me, but it's the theater that I really love.
Amazing. And so Priscilla, being at Manhattan School of Music must have been really competitive as well, because you're blocks away from the Metropolitan Opera. It's an extremely competitive school with students from all over the world fighting for the same goals there. So how did you manage being from Brooklyn and going to Manhattan School of Music, where it's so global?
Well, I didn't look at it that way. I was looking at everything local for me. I don't know. I don't think I think I'm the oddball out here. I'm just totally approaching this from a different way. I hope I don't get cut off again. I don't know what happened to my connection before, but it wasn't that, because while I was at Manhattan School of Music, I was also working full-time at the post office, paying my way through school. So it was working the 10 hours at the post office and going to Manhattan School of Music in the daytime, and just running on young blood and young adrenaline. And they put me in, of course, in opera theater and all the things. I had a teacher, Herta Glatz, but also on the outside, I studied with Camilla Williams, because There was something about studying with a soprano that I needed. So I was a very busy girl for like 5 years. So I wasn't really trying to go out for any competitions or anything like that. That never
Wow.
even occurred to me to do competitions. So, and then after I left, like I don't know if you heard me say before that Manhattan School of Music offered a master's degree in education in a 1 year. They had a 1 year program. So in the daytime, what you did was you taught full time with the Board of Education, and then you took your classes at night. And you had your degree at the end of that year. And so I stayed in the board with the Board of Education for another 2 years after that. And then I decided, oh, my friend who was also a musician, graduated from music and arts, she said, Natalie Cole needs a singer. So I went with Natalie Cole and sang with her because I feel like as a person of color, it was something about a lot of people being able to make a stand in opera as a person of color. And a lot of my friends were going to Europe. And I just did not want to do that. I just refused. I said, I pay taxes here. I want to work here. That was my feeling.
Yes.
Not to say that anybody was wrong. I just felt like I wanted to work here. So my whole thing was, okay, I can sing. I know I can sing classical. And now I'm with Natalie. I know I can do that. And then I said, okay, I liked jazz. I liked everything. My problem with, that differs from most opera singers was that I viewed them all as a job. They were a job. So that whatever came along, I could do it. I felt like I should be ready for any of it. And even Broadway. So then I ended up going to Broadway for a while, and then doing some productions that actually traveled, like Timbuktu, and my first one, I think, what was the name of that show I did? It was an industrial, but we went all over the place with it. So, things like that I did that introduced me to Broadway, introduced me to jazz, introduced me, and my opera was still in the background. So after I felt like, okay, these are all the things I can do, I decided to come back to opera on my own. And I said, let me audition for Houston Grand Opera, because they were doing Porgy and Bess. And I auditioned for it when they won Broadway. And they called me. John DeMaine called me and wanted me to come and do it. And then I got a call from Earl Baker, and that was squashed because he said, well, I haven't heard you sing. So that was sort of like stopped for that time. I eventually joined them when they went to Europe. You understand? So my whole entrance into becoming an artist at whatever opera company or whatever orchestra came a totally different back way.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And I wouldn't have it any other way. I liked that I was able to. Well, you know where I am, right, Ken?
I know where you are. You're in my neighborhood, child. That's why it's just loud for no reason.
So that's my story, and it gets more and more. There's more and more things that happened along the way, but just going back to the Met. When I auditioned for the Met, I'm going to say that real quick. Just throw it in. The first thing they asked me on stage was, well, are you nervous about being here for this audition, or are you nervous about being at Sweetwater's? They knew all about my nightclub act. They knew all about everything. They asked me, I said, both. And so, because they actually knew exactly what I was doing. There's nothing about their singing. They really investigate artists and know exactly what they're doing. And here he comes back again. So that's I thought that was because at the time I was doing a nightclub act at Sweetwater's, which was a nightclub right around here on Amsterdam Avenue. It's long gone.
That's amazing. And I think that is a lesson for singers out there, particularly young singers, is that one, there is no clear-cut way to the goal. Everybody has their own path. Everybody has their own way of getting to their destination. The common thread is hard work. The common thread is focus, determination, and making sure that your instrument is ready to go for whatever is called upon. So, Marquita, after college is over, did you do like young artist programs, or did you just launch right into a career? What was the next step for you? You're muted, darling.
The real turning point. And graduate school was the real turning point for me because, you know, there was an interest in me going into the Met Young Artist program. And John Moriarty was the person who told me he did not want me to do it. He felt that I was too young. He felt that I needed to find more who I was as an artist and where I fit in, and that I should go to graduate school. Because remember, at this time, I was only like 21, 22 years old. And he asked me, and I said, well, okay, where do you think I should go to school? And he said, I said, Juilliard or someplace like that. He said, absolutely not. You should go to Oklahoma City University. And I said, did you say Oklahoma? And he said, Oklahoma City University. I said, there's nothing out there but corn and tornadoes. And he said, no, there's a wonderful voice teacher there. Leona Mitchell studies with her. I think that she'd be wonderful for you. It's a top-notch music school. You'll learn a lot of roles, and it will be an excellent place for a singer as young as you are. So I went kicking and screaming because I really wanted to go to Juilliard or someplace like that. And of course, my mother loved the idea of, oh, you're too young to be in New York. You should go to Oklahoma where everything's fine, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So I went there and I met my teacher, who was Inez Silberg, who was also Leona's teacher. And she was the true diva. She dressed in Chanel. She was very, very picky about how you look when you come to your lesson, how you carry yourself when you're in your lesson. She insisted that I learn two roles outside of the roles that were being offered in the opera program to see how quickly I could learn accurately and bring those characters to life. And in the opera program there, it was very, very competitive. Even though New England Conservatory was competitive, it was not like this kind of competition that I had encountered. I thought to myself, oh, I went to New England Conservatory. I've won all these competitions. It should be easy to get those roles. Oh, no. Oh, no. When I got there, those singers were just as prepared as I was, wanted to learn all the roles. So I had to up my game. But more importantly, I had to up my confidence. That was the main thing. I had always been this person that, yes, I knew I could sing, but I wasn't sure where I fit into everything. But once I got to Oklahoma City University, the universe changed. I turned into a different person, much more grounded, much more sure of myself, devouring all the music I could get my hands on. And Ed Purrington was with Tulsa Opera at that time. And he said, well, we're doing Porgy and Bess. And it was my second year of graduate school. And he said, why don't you come sing Clara for us? And I said, oh, yes, I saw Porgy and Bess at the Kennedy Center when I was in high school. And so I said, you know, I would love to be a part of this. Well, that's where I met Bruce Hubbard, Greg Baker, Simon Estes, Barbara Conrad, Sarah Reese, you know, all these people embraced me. And now here was my introduction into Porgy and Bess, but also my introduction into a community of my own people, of singers that were really into the theater and acting and singing. Now, I was getting a lot of that in graduate school because we had real theater people teaching us how to be these people. So I was coming into my own, but it was that Clara and that Porgy and Bess that turned on everything for me.
Wow.
And I brought that experience into everything that I was doing in school. And that's also where I met John DeMaine, who invited me to the finals of the Houston Opera Studio. And then I auditioned. I did those finals auditions, and then I got into the program, and the rest just started really taking off for me.
Wow. So John DeMaine made the call and the invitation,
That's
and then you earned your way into the Houston Grand Opera Studio.
Absolutely.
So who else was in do you remember who your class was in that year when you got in to HGO?
Edry Weekly, David Langan. I think he came after me. Just a moment. It'll come to me. Ask me that question later.
Okay, I will.
Remember right now.
So Roberta, what's your track after your formal education and into the career? What was the step?
I had won a competition in Providence, Rhode Island, and the prize was to be able to sing a role, and I was given the role of Pamina in Diabo Flote. And so I remember standing after getting my master's, and my dad said to me, "Do you want to get your doctorate?" And I said, "Daddy, I've been in school since I was 5. No, I'm tired now."
Job. I said the same thing.
Yes, but the truth was, I stayed at Boston Conservatory. Again, John Moriarty was the person who said to me, because I was going to go home and go to Juilliard or Manhattan School of Music or Mannes School of Music to get my master's, and he said, "No, that you're on a track here in New England, so stay here." And I had only had 1 year in opera workshop, so that afforded me 2 more years with him and 2 more years with my teacher. And then I stayed a year after that just to study, and that changed my whole life. When I took the time to just come in every day and study without the pressures of school, what happened was just amazing. And so I remember going to audition at the Met. You had to go, and when you were a winner, you had to go every 2 years or so and re-audition for your money that you were granted. And I remember Risa Stevens being in the audience that year. And she said, "Young lady, I want you to come with me to my office." And she gave me her critique, and she was so gracious and so wonderful. And she said, "I see that you want to be a part of the Lindenman program." And I said, "Yes, ma'am, because I have much to learn." And she said to me, "Boston Conservatory and John Moriarty and Iride Pila have given you everything that you need. Go sing." I said, "Yes, ma'am."
And go.
Thank you. And so that's how it began. I went to Santa Fe Opera and I did that apprentice program, but the contract started to come, and then a gentleman by the name of Christopher Purdy called me on the phone because I was representing myself. And he said, I remember you from Boston. I'm starting an independent agency. Do you have a manager?" "No, sir, I do not." And he became my manager. And so one thing just came into the other. And I have to say that, like Marquita, I was the only African-American in the opera workshop at Boston Conservatory in my senior year. And then my next 2 years, I was one of 2. The other person was Wandalyn Abernathy. And Ralph Abernathy's daughter. Yes. And we became very good friends. But that was it. So my exposure to being in an African-American community of opera singers came with Porgy. Wow. And it came when they were at Radio City. And I got a call because she's a friend of mine now. Janice Dixon had injured herself on the set. And they called me and said, "Can you come? Because she's going to be out. She's on crutches." And it was on a Saturday. And I said, "Yes." And they said, "We open Tuesday night." And I had to learn the Porgy score. Yes. Saturday, Tuesday night. Yes. The thing that you have to pay somebody to carry around for you because it's so thick.
That daggone score is so heavy.
Right. And I had never sung Porgy before. And I had to come in. I had to learn it. I had to learn the second soprano part. which was great for me because I like the intricate harmonies. I had to learn the staging, and I walked in and I sat down, and the first voice that I heard when the curtain opened, they were having a run through, was Priscilla Baskerville's, and I thought I had died and gone to heaven as she was way up there singing Summertime in the most beautiful way that still to this day I have ever heard.
Wow.
But Priscilla was,
I heard too.
Priscilla was bad though, see, because Priscilla gets easily tickled on stage. And she would have that baby and something would tickle her and she would bury her face in that baby, shoulders shaking and laughing. She's also the only person I know who can cry and sing at the same time.
Yeah. That's out for me. That's out.
But
My throat is done.
But I have to say one thing though, Roberta, how I got to know about you was actually with John Moriarty. He said to me, you know, there's another African-American soprano that's in the graduate program, and you're in the undergraduate program, that you should go hear sing. And you were singing with the Boston the Boston Concert Opera. Do you remember?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
The L'Altro Notte, the Boito.
Yeah, the Boito.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I was there and I heard you sing that. And that was the first time I ever heard you sing. And I was an undergraduate.
Oh,
wow.
Wow.
That's see, y'all had all the fun. That's a shame, but y'all had all the fun. So in our second half of the show, we're going to dissect the role of Bess and how she what role she has played in your lives. But before we get to her, I wanted to talk to you all about the other roles that you did, because reading your bios and knowing what I know of you, y'all sang everything from A to Z and everything in between. And so what was it like going from city to country with these varied roles and having the beautiful color of your skin and still having to show up in the room and deliver? What was that like in the standard operatic repertoire for you? Anybody can take it.
Well, you know, my career was a little bit different from both Roberta and Priscilla in the sense that I did the bulk of my career in Europe with sprinkling of performances in the United States. That's not how it began, though. I mean, how it began was that I was singing in the big regional houses here. I mean, I've been represented by Columbia Artists, ICM, and smaller agencies as well. And things were going very well for me until I sang Porgy and Bess.
Wow. And how so?
Okay.
How so?
And well, once I took the Houston tour, things, when that tour was over, things slowed down. And my agent was getting comments like, but can she sing anything other than Bess? And that's after I had sung in Verona. That's after I had done a big concert at La Scala. That was after I had sung in a plethora of places. And I thought, this is crazy. You've got to be kidding me. And she, her whole attitude was, I don't really know quite what to do about this. And so I left ICM and I went to an independent agent and I discussed this. And I said, I really don't understand how I could have a career that was going so well. I went on the international tour, so to speak, of Porgy and Bess, with Grand Opera, and did very well on that. And don't understand why now the wheels have come to a screeching halt. Mm-hmm. And he said to me, well, you know what? Sometimes you got to leave home for people to miss you. And he said, so what?
Can you say that again, please? Say that again one more time.
Sometimes you have to leave home for people to miss you. He said, so what you're going to do is you're going to leave home. He said, you're going to go to Germany and Spain and Italy and any place else over the water that will take you to do the roles that you have always wanted to do. And they will embrace you and they will love you and you will have the career you've always dreamed about. And he did not disappoint me. That's exactly what happened.
Wow.
That I would never have been able, to have done as many Zalomes or any of the other roles that I did. Kenny, you were a part of the one that I did in Connecticut I learned that role with Willie Waters. We spent a year working on that role. And and then after, to get it absolutely perfect, because I tell you, when I first got the score, I sent it back to Boozy and Hawks with a note saying there's a mistake in the score. I mean, I need an accurate score. And they sent me they said, Madam Lister, this is how Strauss wrote it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, here we go. Poor Willie, that's a story. He just howled. He said, okay, rehearsal's over. And then I kind of had the building blocks for a piece that difficult actually here in the United States, because I got to do it, in Austin, Texas, where they were very patient and I could find out who she was. And then I did, of course, in Connecticut. Then I did it in Detroit with a bigger, like Greer Grimsley, a bigger, cast. And then I finally took it to Germany. And when I took it to Germany, the language needed to be to perfection. And I worked with a conductor there for about 4 or 5 months, and I put it on its feet. And the biggest honor for me was to be invited to the Strauss Festival that was held in Dresden. And Debbie Voigt was there singing, and Thomas Allen was there singing, and a few other big people there singing. And it was such a joy, because no one had ever seen a Black Salome in their house.
Wow.
They had never seen a Black Salome in their house. And for me, that was incredible. But that also was a little sticky too, because there were some people who didn't want to believe I was Black. They kept calling me exotic. I must have been Hispanic. I must be biracial. I must be anything but Black. And they were attributing some of that to the hue of my skin, because to them, Black people are people who are very dark. And if you aren't very dark, then you must be this. I'm like, well, no, hello. Black people come in all colors, all different shades, and so but.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. So Priscilla, can you tell me what it's like? What does it feel like to sing Aida on the stage of the Metropolitan Opera? What is that like? What goes through your mind? How did you feel when you got the call? And then how did you feel when they said, Miss Baskerville, to stage, please? Like, what is that?
It's called pressure, and it's called scared, and happy, because it was my dream. That I only had one dream, really. I didn't want this big career. I just wanted to be able to sing Aida at the Met.
Wow.
So that was my dream, based on Leontine Price, and who I followed as my inspiration. And so having done the best and the Musetta and stuff, that was fine. But my goal was to do an Aida. So it was called Fear, and I wanted to do a good job. And I was just praying to God that the high C would come out. And yes, and there are certain places on the Met where you have to position yourself where the moisture is the best, because your throat will dry out like you would not believe. And you're like, yes, for anything. And then the people like to, wonder why tenors are so hyper and whatnot. That they worry the most, and they're back there with the sprays and all that, because they know that stage can be very dry. And so I was finding that spot. I said, where's that spot? Okay, this is the spot here, the best spot to stand on the stage. And I was thinking about those things, but I was also just thinking about, please just let me live up to what God has decided to bless me with.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be, I really, really just wanted it. I wanted to succeed, because as a person of color, and there are not that many of us who were getting anything. I did the Porgy and Bess there, and so many people who, I always say the choruses have like all solo voices in there, and some of them who would never get a chance to do anything else at the Met. And there were just a few of us did. And I just thought, I just wanted to do my best, but a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure, but a lot of thanks and gratitude for the opportunity. That's all I can tell you.
Now, was your Met Aida the first time you had done the role? Had you done it somewhere else beforehand, and it led up to the Met?
Yeah, I had done it. Where had I done this before the Met? I don't think I did it in Scotland until after that. I don't think I did it in. I think the Met was my. The Met might no. I think I had done it in someplace in Ohio. I think in Dayton, I had done
Okay.
it, but I can't really remember. But it was I hadn't done it that many times before, but I had done it. But I was glad that because they don't really rehearse the understudies, and I was
Mm,
understudying at the time. They don't really rehearse you, so you more or less. I was just glad that I knew the role,
yeah.
and I could like, well, just where do you want me to go stand, sing this aria or this note? Just put me on, I'll be okay. So and they trusted, there was a little trust that a lot of directors, not him particularly, but a lot of directors, if they see that you have an innate talent to perform and act, they will give you some leeway. They're not going to be, well, you have to be here at this point and you have to be. They will actually give you some leeway in where you go, and that
Yeah.
happened with Bess at the Met. Arvin Brown, who was absolutely incredible. He would come to me and say, well, "What do you think about this? Or what do you think? Are you okay with?" He said, "Well, just go and do what you think she would do, and I'll tell you if it's okay." And he would let me just go and do and be, and I loved it. He even came
Yeah.
to me to ask about some of the dialogue, some of the wording, and I would give him my opinion. So I love directors like that who recognize that you do have acting ability, and it may not necessarily be that somebody taught you it.
Yeah.
It's just what you bring on your own, and he appreciated that. So for all of it, it's all the Met stage can be very, very intimidating. It's huge. It's not as huge as Radio City, right, Roberta? Because Radio
No,
City was
Radio
ridiculous.
City seats 6,000 people.
I couldn't believe, and then the sound in Radio City comes back at you as
It
opposed to going
does.
acoustically. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. You think you're singing loud, but it's really just monitors that are coming back at you.
Hmm.
So your
Wow.
voice may not be going any further than row C. So at Radio City. So but the Met has very good acoustics, like I said, if you know where to stand.
If you know what
And
it's saying.
if you know where to stand on that stage, your voice will
Yeah,
go ping, 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 ping. You
you have to
know,
know where the sweet spots are.
you
Right.
have to know the sweet spots on that stage.
So
Absolutely.
Roberta, your sort of repertoire leads you to one of my main men, Giacomo Puccini.
Mm.
Why do you feel like his music resonates with you a bit more than say some of the Verdi heroines that Priscilla and Marquita have taken on?
Um, some of it is the anatomy of my own instrument.
Yes.
Um, so I remember Mark Rucker saying to me one day, I don't know how you sing this Puccini, Roberta Laws, because they're down there in the orchestra pit, all 100 of them, just resin flying everywhere,
Yes.
playing the same notes that you're singing, and you just cutting it like a hot knife through butter. And he said,
Right.
I just can't. But but my voice liked to live there in that middle register. And it's not that it wasn't that it lacked height, but my voice was the kind of voice that wanted to go up there and spin for a second, and then she wants to
And
come on
come
down
down.
again. Yeah.
Wave hello and come
Yeah,
down.
wave hello. She didn't want to live, as my friend Everett Subtle would say, in that misogynist area. She didn't want to live there. But seriously, more than that, there's something about the raw emotion of what Puccini put on paper that just always spoke to me. I'm a fiery person, and there is his composition, his melodies. they haunt me. They really do. And his characters, his female characters, there's a strength and yet a vulnerability that exists in all of his characters that just spoke to me. So I really believe with any character, you have to find the common thread between who you are and your experiences in life with this person that you're about to portray on stage.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that relationship, then you're just singing notes on a staff.
Yeah.
And there was something about Puccini's music. There was something about Suor Angelica. There was something about the desperation of Giorgetta. There was just something about those ladies. I loved singing Musetta. I wanted to sing Mimi, but my first poem was Musetta. As a soprano, I had never gotten a chance to beat up a baritone. That was so fabulous to me, you know, because as sopranos, we get dragged and pushed and pulled, and I got and Mark Rucker was my Marcello.
Wow.
And I got to break plates, and it was the
Nice.
best.
Yeah, that's nice.
You know, so I don't know. There was just something Mascagni, Puccini that drew me to that verismo music, and my voice liked it. And you have to be true. You have to be true. Your voice will tell you what it likes and what it doesn't.
It will.
Exactly.
And it's no disgrace to say I can't sing that because my voice doesn't like that. Your voice is not going to like everything.
And you know, Roberta, it's very interesting that you're saying that, because so many people talk about the Fach system.
Oh yeah.
So many people talk about, you know, I'm supposed to sing this, I'm supposed to sing that as this particular type of soprano. That no. One thing I know for sure about my career, things that people said I shouldn't be able to sing, I could sing, and things that people said that I was able to do, I couldn't do.
So absolutely.
I basically had to just, you know, trial and error.
Yes.
It's like trying on shoes in a store. Now that shoe is hurting your toes when you take them on. When you take them home and try to stretch them and all that stuff, they still don't work. It's the same thing with a role. If you're working on this role and you've got places it's not fitting, you need to leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
And you know, there's so much rep that you can work on.
Right. And there's so much rep to sing. And we grew up in a conservatory, or at least I won't speak for Marquita, but at Boston Conservatory, if there was some thought, there was a school of thought that if you couldn't sing Mozart, you weren't an accomplished technical singer.
That's true.
And I remember my teacher, and that wasn't John's school of thought, John Moriarty's school of thought, but it was a school of thought. And I remember my teacher saying to me, I said to her one day, I was suffering through Dove Sono, Lord have mercy, can this just end? And can it just end? And she said to me, why are you struggling through Mozart? She says, you're not a Mozart soprano. And she said, but that soprano over there, and she wasn't pointing at anyone in particular, they can't sing Puccini. So your voice is what it is.
It's what it is.
And you have to allow it to be that, and flower and grow and be the best whatever that you are.
But I also think the most important thing is to be in love with your voice. You have to be in love with your voice, because there is no voice store where there's all these vocal folds for you to choose from. If there was people would all choose Leontine Price's, right? But that's not a possibility. So you have to love the voice you have.
Exactly. Love the one you got, baby.
I'll just say that I had a couple of people that had, you know how when you go out and they say, well, what key do you want to do this in? And you always pick your key. And I person who I was actually had a theory about our vocal cords and the length of our necks, and how our voices were actually in certain keys, and so that when those came along, it really was easy for you to sing certain roles, because your mechanism, your whole voice was in that key right there. And so he actually had done some work on it. And I think he's absolutely right. There's some things where my voice actually just fit like a glove. And,
Mm-hmm.
and then there were some other things that I was like, no, but the Mozart, I always tell them, maybe not, Dove Sono was one song that I that worked for me. I'm going to tell you right now, Non Mi Dire would not work.
Yeah.
They're not gonna work. Okay, they can
That
have
no
no,
work.
they can have Non Mi Dire.
Yeah.
And so I said, Mozart, though, I do keep light Mozart for my kids. And I said, and I think it was either Leontine or one of the singers who said that when their voices would get out of line, they would go back and get go get the Mozart and line up their voices again. So I tell my kids to always keep a Mozart song in your repertoire to go back to just find the evenness and stuff in your voice again.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth having a Mozart around somewhere. Maybe not Dove Sono for you, but something else.
Definitely not Dove Sono.
Not Dove Sono. Sorry.
But the thing with YouTube, and I'm finding this with my students, they go on YouTube and they listen to a plethora of singers, and then they pick their voices apart. They want to sound a little bit like this person, or they want to sound like that person, or why can't I do what this person does? And the main thing that I always say is that you sing for the joy of it.
That's right.
You sing for the joy, whatever that is for you.
Whatever that is.
The business is tough enough. And there are plenty of people who will tell you how bad you are. There are plenty of people who will tell you what you're lacking. And there are plenty of people that will tell you you'll never have a career. If I even just had a penny for the number of people who told me I'd never have a career, I'd be a very wealthy woman.
That's right.
So you must always dare to defy the odds.
Right.
You must always stand true to who you are when you look at yourself in that mirror and say, I am worthy. I can do this. I don't know how far I'll go, but damn it, I'm going to give it my best shot. And my voice is my voice. I love my sound. I love
if my kids are especially if they're sopranos, I will tell them in a minute. You can listen to a whole lot of different artists sing the same song, different sopranos, but I said, what I want you to do is I want you to go and try to be totally different and be your own person and be unique.
Right. That's right.
And sing the same song in your way, because if you sound too much like this one or too much like that one, they're going to shelve you. You understand? They already have a Kathleen Battle. They already have a Leontine. They already find your own voice. Find your own voice. And so I encourage them to really try to sound different and love their voice. Know what your voice sounds like and where you excel, and don't try to imitate anybody. Take a little bit of what they do as they perform it, maybe some of their colorings and things like that you love. Yeah. But it still has to be yours in the very end. It has to be yours.
Well, when I first did Salome, when my agent first brought to me, okay, Marquita, why don't you look at Salome? I laughed at him. I said, that's Hildegard Behrens. That's a voice that's 2 sizes bigger than what mine is. He said, not necessarily. He said, why can't you just sing it with your voice and
your voice? That's right.
And see what happens. See, that again is the sound that we've gotten in our ear of how a role is supposed to be portrayed. What it's supposed to sound like, what it's supposed to look like. And when I took off those glasses and put on these glasses that says, I'm just going to sing the repertoire that feels good to me, and the repertoire that's going to be presented in the houses that are going to cater to my size voice, then I can have a success. And that is the big key of it as well. It's knowing where you can sing what role.
Absolutely.
That's right.
So we're about halfway through, and I could sit here and talk to y'all all night. But after this commercial break, we are going to dissect the role that you all have in common, and that is the role of Bess in Porgy and Bess. We're going to talk about her, your likes, your favorite things about her, things you don't like, how she figured in your career. So stay tuned and enjoy these two clips of two of the three greatest Besses in the world. And we'll be right back. Listen, ma'ams, both of y'all, I didn't want to mess up my own stuff in my own house, but I was about to throw up. I was cussing in here, and I can't stand neither one of y'all, neither one of you. I can't.
And he texted me and he said, "I'm cussing at you right now." I was like, "What?"
I sure did. I said, "I'm cussing at you right now. I just want you to know that I really, really don't like you much at all. At all. Listen. And so let's talk about this red dress, because there's so much controversy around it. There's so much talk about it. There's so much pigeonholing about it. Like Marquita, you were saying earlier, people say, once you sung Bess, can you sing anything else? So for you, has she been a rose or a thorn or both?
Both.
Both. What about you?
Both.
What about you, Roberta?
More of a rose than a thorn.
And you, Priscilla?
More of a rose than a thorn. Yeah.
Okay. So now let's circle back. Marquita, how did Bess first come into your life, and what made you say yes to putting on the dress?
Well, I was grandfathered into the role. I had sung, I don't know how many Claras, and Clonmondale became ill. And we went to Prince Albert Hall in London, and we were going to do this big, gigantic outdoor concert. And John Dumaine said to me, "You're going to learn and you're going to sing Bess in the next 4 days." And I said, "Are you talking about the Bess in Porgy and Bess?" Or is there another? He said, "No, I'm talking about Bess in Porgy and Bess." I'm like, "How am I supposed to do that?" "We're going to work on it day and night until you get it." And that's exactly what we did.
Wow.
And I went out and I got this very form-fitting, sexy dress. And it was funny because Greg Baker said, "Keita, you ready, baby?" And I said, "Well, as ready as I'm going to be." And it was amazing because all of my cast members were magnificent. They just held me up the whole night and were there every step of the way. If there was a dropped note, somebody just picked it back up and handed it back to me, so to speak. And the ball just kept rolling. And by the time I got to Kitty Wild, I said, "Thank you, Jesus, we're almost finished." And it just blossomed there. I mean, it was such a huge success. And I think part of the reason why it was such a success is because I was too dumb to realize what had just really happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't really know that I had sung an iconic role, so to speak, and I had taken over for someone who was an iconic Bess, and that it was going to either make me as a Bess or totally throw me to the trash as a Bess. I would never be able to do it again. And thank God the latter happened. And from there, the Besses just started pouring in. Just pouring in.
What about you, Priscilla?
For me, I think when it was first proposed to me to do it, I was covering. I was with Houston Grand. I wasn't doing it with Houston Grand until the next tour, because I was new in the cast, and that cast was just overrun with talent. I mean, they just had so much talent in there. You couldn't get a role at that point. It had just come from Broadway, so you had Esther Hines, you had Irene Oliver, and you had Clama Dale. And so Clama didn't come to Europe, and neither one of them came to Europe. So they had 3 new Besses, but I hadn't been with the Broadway company, so there was nothing. This was all new for me. But when I got the chance and I was supposed to do this Bess, I said, "You know what? I am going to really go down to where she was raised and do my research."
Wow.
And I felt related to her because my family's from South Carolina. So I said, let me go down there and go where he wrote it, go where they walked, go to Meeting Street, go to all the places, and just get it into my blood, the flavor, the scenery, all of it. I just want to know just what kind of girl this was, who's been on her own for all those, probably from the age of 12, because she was young, according to what I've researched and been told about the story. And so I went down there, and I actually did all of that and got to know Bess. Okay, and got to see Catfish Row and see where that was and all that. I just wanted to breathe it all in, take it all in. And I stepped out on that. I got out of my car, stepped my foot out on that Charleston ground, and it's like it shook. I was like, well, what is this? I didn't know they had earthquakes, but they are having earthquakes now in South Carolina, North Carolina now. But at that time, I just thought, okay, I just felt connected.
Yeah.
And I did all of that. And so when it came time to do that role, and I had done all this lowlands and inspecting and going around, I felt very comfortable with Bess. And I felt, okay, I see what this is about. So that she became more than one-dimensional with me. She was multidimensional. There were certain things about her, the reasons, whichever relationship she had, it was different based on the circumstance. One thing was about Bess, she needed a man. She had to have a man. But it's how she wanted. I don't think she ever really wanted to do the drugs. So I had disagreements with a couple productions I've seen where they've just put her in that bag, you know. But I think it was about survival with her. But she also knew how to handle men. And What in Life saw that about her. He saw the fact that this woman could actually handle men. So that's why he wanted her to come to New York, so that he could use her to make his money. And then it was with Houston Grand Opera when they did it for Radio City with Jack O'Brien, where he actually had us sit down and decipher every character. All of us, we had to sit down and talk about our character and name just who they were. And we had not only my character, but I had to know all the others and why they did what they did. He had the most in-depth analysis of character that really, really puts you in a place that is absolutely, I think you have to do that. It's a must for everybody who's studying a role. I don't care what language it's in. That's what you need to do. But for Bess, loved her. I'm upset that she never had a solo except for Summertime. I think that's one of the reasons why they can't really tell what Bess is, what you can do as a soprano heroine, because there's nothing that Bess has to really sink herself into and sing as a solo, where no one's around her, no chorus, no duet, no one, that I really disliked it. It was thankless in that regard.
But what you say, Priscilla, I thought that for me in preparing Bess, what I liked about that sparsity for her is that it made her the true cripple of the opera. It made her the real broken person.
Wow,
I have always believed that the true cripple is Bess.
Yes,
absolutely. That's what I have. That's
absolutely cripple. She is that. Yeah. But there are a lot of cripples in other operas who have a solo. And that's what I'm saying. I know she was always dependent on somebody, but I'm sorry, she could have had a solo somewhere.
But you know what? That never bothered me, because for me it just intensified the fact of how dependent she was, how she really was broken and couldn't stand on her own.
Right.
That just reinforced that for me.
Yeah.
And while she may not have had an aria to sing, she has some of the hardest singing.
Jesus.
Aside from Porgy, because goodness knows it's Wagner by the time the end of the night comes for you at that trio. But she has some of the hardest singing in that piece, because she doesn't get to stand and sing.
Right.
She's moving. She's knocking on doors. Right. She's being dragged. She's being kicked. Marquita and I used to compare bruises, and I'd call her when I was off tour. She was on, and I'd say, have your knees cleared up yet? No, girl, not yet. I'm telling you.
And I'm looking for some Tiger Balm.
And looking for some Tiger Balm. I mean, it's hard singing.
I think you're right, and I know it's hard singing. I just know that there is something that I think that he missed, that he could have done to really give us to bring the audience in more to her. Because for them to sit down and look, okay, well, we're going to feel sorry for Bess because she's just dependent on everybody, and that's why she doesn't have the solo. They're not going to do that. And I just wanted something. I just wanted for Bess to be able to tell her side of things, and maybe even bring a little history into why she is who she is. But that's okay. I'm not saying I was just really making sure. I don't really care one way or the other.
No. But I understand.
I understand too.
I understand your personal feeling about that.
I know that she's dependent. Like I said, she has to have a man. Everything that she does, is she does. She's not one to be alone. She just isn't. And maybe that's why there was no solo. But I don't think she really had a chance to really define her circumstance.
But
You know,
for me, after I did my
Porgy,
first,
as opposed to Porgy,
oh,
who's out there
sorry.
and he does his, he talks about, they pass by singing, and and you actually get to feel something for Porgy. And you get a little bit in the duet that she does with him, and how and she tells a story of Kitty Wah about why she's attached to Crown and all that. She gets to tell her story. I just wanted her to have a solo.
That's the bottom line. I want her to have a solo.
But after I did my first Bess, I had time to really read through that score and decide who I wanted her to be.
Right.
And I found that the silent moments were also very powerful moments. I found that the moments when she was listening to Porgy and watching his transition, I always thought in Plenty of Nothing when the chorus would say, about that Porgy, Porgy's changed since that woman come to live with he ain't crossed with children no more. You see that the power of her ability to love him has transformed him into this wonderfully caring human being, which also completes her in this wonderful kind of way. I remember that Larry Marshall and I used to have a lot of conversations about this. He was the first sport in life that I ever had, and I learned so much working with him. And when I would take my score and I would just tear it apart and I look at this hideous person who is sport in life, this man who just is like a leech, who just sucks the blood out of anything that could possibly be good. Okay. And then I look at Porgy, who is supposed to be this cripple only because he can't walk, but inside of him lives a giant. Inside of him lives this man of great capacity for love. And then you have this creature who's Bess, who's so confused about who she really is, because she is definitely, to use today's terminology, she's definitely codependent. We know that, right? So with her being that person, she's always looking for me, when she's saying the reprise of Summertime, even though she's singing that supposedly for the baby, I feel like there's some hauntedness in that for her. For her, there's some hauntedness in that one of these mornings, maybe she'll be able to be somebody different. And so when I would sing that, I would bring into that aspect that, I'm singing for the baby, but maybe this is a rebirth for me too. Crown is gone, and maybe I can actually, if he's just gone, maybe I can actually stand a chance.
Amazing. So, Roberta, we were talking with the clips that I chose to play. You see very different vocal demands. The long, beautiful lines and the high floating pianissimi that you did, and then the conforza in the Kitty Wah scene, which is why I deliberately chose those two, because it's the same woman.
It's the same woman.
It comes out of the same. So how did you manage all of that different type of vocalism while being thrown around, pushed to the floor, dragged, and all of that?
The first thing is that one of the most difficult pieces in this opera for Bess, at least for me, let me not speak for anybody else, was the Bess You Is My Woman Now.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I'm not that floaty soprano at all.
You lie. That's a lie. We just heard it. And you lie. We just heard it.
But I had to think about that, and I had to commit myself to that, because if you sing it all like it's Kitty Wah, then you don't get.
You're in trouble.
Not only are you in vocal trouble, not only do you say, while I'm singing this, Bess, you is my woman, now I have a whole second act to sing that not only has Kittywa, but also has Take Your Hands Off Me, I Say, and it's also gotten I Loves You, Porgy. So you still have 2 more duets to sing. So if you don't pace yourself, you won't make it through Kittywa. That's number vocally. But number 2 is, if you're going to show all of the different aspects of who Bess is, you've got to be able to show that vulnerable side where she almost takes the happy dust. And then she's so convicted by that when Porgy comes in and sends Sport and Life off. She hasn't realized that she can be loved. She doesn't realize that she's worthy. If you don't find some way to make those subtleties, as Marquita was talking about, real, if you don't find some way, where does Train Is at the Station come from? What is her connection to that? You've got to decide somewhere in her life, being in church or wherever, that song came from somewhere.
That's right.
When Clara leaves and gives her baby to, you have to find places where you develop a relationship with Clara, or why would she leave her baby with you? Not because the stage director placed you here and her there. Well, that doesn't make any sense. So
in the music too. Yeah.
It's got to have that contrast. It's got to have that contrast. So you have to find that lyric, that sweet spot, that love spot, that almost I'm timid, I'm not quite sure. And then when you come together to sing that with him, then all of a sudden, for the first time, she's loved in a way she's never been loved before. Because what she has with Crown is about sex. That's not about love. But what she has, even though she feels protected by him, because who wouldn't feel protected by Crown? But this is a different type of protection. But when she gets in the thickets with Mr. Crown, that's all about what his touch does to her. And she can't deny that. And that's not sweet and loving. That's
abuse.
It's abuse.
Abuse, yes, it is.
It is abuse. It is abuse.
Abuse. So,
but like most abused women, or some abused women, she can't help herself. She keeps going back. So yeah, those were some of the different things, that I found. And you have to be open and willing enough for the Crown. You have to have a conversation with him about how he handles you, and you have to be willing to be handled.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I've been thrown and got a sciatic nerve messed up and everything else with Crowns. You have to be they have to be checked, because
they do.
That role carries them into a and if they can't control that, they can hurt you. They really can hurt you.
Right. And I remember saying to one of my Crowns, he had an argument with someone and he was about to come out on stage. And I said, you can't bring that out on stage. You have to leave that in the wings, darling, because you can't come out on stage with that anger and handle me, because then we're gonna have a problem.
We've had Crowns. I've had Crowns that would scare us so much until people would just be disappearing off stage because they didn't know where his temper was going to take him. Wow. And you just people backing up in that hurricane. And next thing you know, there'll be like 5 people where there were 20. I
have done Porgy's appearances where they've had to net the pit. They've had to put a net over the pit.
A net over the pit. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, sometimes it gets to that point, but Bess, actually, I'm telling you, there's so much to know about her that you have to bring into the role. You have to almost imagine what her life, now she is, the reason that she can't get away from the drugs is because she is an addict, but she was doing a good job there with Porgy, weaning herself off. And that's why it was so important for her to be able to turn Sporting Life down, for Porgy to come out and chase because Porgy knew that she was still weak for that. But I thought that Bess was very strong in being able to stay away from it that long. I think that there was a strength in her that, this woman has survived from 12 years old to whatever age she is now, making use of Crown or whoever else, and she says, some man always willing to take care of Bess.
Yes.
She says that, and she uses her strength, and she has a strength that has, enabled her to survive. There is a survival mechanism in her.
Absolutely.
We would never want to use it we would never do it that way, but it was helpful for Bess. And I found her to be strong in a lot of ways, even though she just had to have a man around. I still found a strength in her.
Yeah.
Enabled her to, and I think, yes, there was a relationship that she developed between her and Clara, and that's why Clara felt safe. And I think the community started to feel like we want to help her.
Yeah.
She's done a good thing for Porgy, and now that they're married by Lawyer Frazier or whatever, gonna make this part of the community. There's a whole lot of layers in it that you can.
She's an onion. You got to peel back all of those layers.
A lot of layers there. A lot of layers.
So we've got some questions coming in the chat that I wanted to throw at you all. So Karen Slack wants to know, what do you think happens to Bess after she leaves Catfish Row? Who wants to take that?
Do you know that there was an episode of Stacey Keach started, was it Hammer? Something Hammer, Mike Hammer. And I've been trying to find that episode because it's all about what happens to Bess when she gets to New York. And Porgy comes up there and tries to find her in this episode.
So he makes it.
Huh? Yeah, he goes.
He makes it.
I gotta go find that episode, but that's speculation of what might have happened. But I think that I would love to have seen a sequel to this, because we never know if Porgy makes it to New York according to the author. We don't know what happens to him and that goat. And in this last production, there was no goat, so he walking. We gotta see how far.
Priscilla said he walking.
We don't know how far that boy got with those legs. Okay, so I would love to, if Gershwin had lived longer, I think he might have thought about writing something like a sequel to this. I don't know. What do you think?
I have to say, Karen, I don't know. I really don't know, and I like not knowing. I like inventing all of the different possibilities. I really do. And not necessarily arriving at any conclusion.
No.
It's just the strength and the fortitude and the commitment and the drive that sends him out of a community where he's lived so long and been safe and been comfortable. To have someone love and believe in you to that point that they would displace themselves and risk their own life to go and find someone who is desperately in trouble. It mesmerizes me. So I don't know. Slack, I don't know.
What about you, Marquita?
I'm kind of with Roberta. Sometimes I like open-ended mysteries because, it just kind of leaves it to the imagination. It keeps it alive.
Yeah.
Because, every time you think about it, you can think about it differently. And I think that because Porgy and Bess is such, a controversial piece to begin with, it's such a discussion piece. I think part of what adds to the discussion is not really knowing, you know, I mean, they didn't have 95 then. So I'm thinking to myself, how do you get from where you are up to New York anyhow?
US one was there. US one. But
It take a long pull to get there.
It
Don't
take
it?
a long pull to get
A
there.
long pull.
also in the production itself, there were some directors that actually had you not, you didn't see Bess go to New York.
No.
Right.
So when that next scene came up, you didn't know if she went or not.
Yeah.
It wasn't until he got back and they told him that she was gone. So, you could still wonder, well, did she go with him or did she just go on her own? But I
Right.
thought that was very interesting not to see her go.
Yeah.
I thought that was nice. I thought that was good. Do you want to see the red dress go? And it also gave the audience a chance to say, Bess is she's true to she's really being. Listen, let me tell you something. Don't be calling me when I'm
Talk to it, Priscilla. Give it instructions.
it was nice for them to think that Bess had some character and did not go. For that moment, for the audience to really think that Bess loved Porgy and she stayed.
And she stayed.
I mean, even they found out in the end that she went. I thought the direction of it in that way was much better for my character.
Okay,
My
so
character.
there's lots of questions coming in. The people are living for y'all. So there's two that I really, really want to get to. One is shorter, so we'll do that one first. And there's a longer one here that may be a bit controversial, and I love that. But the first one is, what is your favorite moment in the role, in the night? What is the moment that you look forward to doing every night, and why? Roberta?
Goodbye, Porgy.
Why?
When
Well, actually, hold up. Before you answer, that's another part where you floating again. So all that mess. Well, you picked the floaty part. Now go on. Go ahead.
When she comes out of that duet, and I want to feel like that's the first time that they've touched and kissed and been in that intimate way. Mm-hmm. And they're just in their own cocoon, and they just, they're just absorbed in it. They're bathed in it. And here come Mariah trying to take her off to the picnic. Lord have mercy. Right. And there's a little bit of a comedy moment there, and there's also then the acceptance of Mariah making sure, come on, girl, we're going to take care of you. But now come on. And he'll be all right. But you have to go to this picnic.
Right.
But do you know what it's like to say goodbye to somebody you love? Mm. How many times have we been at an airport or wherever and had to say goodbye to somebody that you love? And for me, that's what it was. It was those goodbyes that you have to say, and you're prepared to say them. But there's so much melancholy in it. And so I don't know. There's just something about that moment where she doesn't want to leave him. And maybe the forbearing of, I know I shouldn't do this because I'm not really going to be protected. And something might come up that I can't handle, Yeah. So I don't know. It's so delicate. It's so fragile. I love Goodbye, Porgy.
What about you, Priscilla?
Well, I love the duet itself.
Which one?
Bess You Is My Woman. Bess You Is My Woman. Okay. I loved it. I thought that was a real affirmation of their love. And there was a moment there. From this moment, I'm telling you, I take this vow. I think that is a very, very strong, necessary part of the opera, and getting that connection solidified. I really like that. and it leads into the Goodbye Porgy. And the reason I don't think she felt, I think she felt safety in Catfish Row.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like she didn't. It was not about going past those gates away from Porgy. She had come to be an accepted part of a community. They had just professed their love to each other, and it was strong. It was that meaningful. That whole duet summed up everything, that all the things that he was saying to her and about her. You know, I just really think that I love that duet. I sing that anyway. I love it. And vocally for me, I didn't have those were okay. These, I think Bess was one of the easier roles for me to do. But that Goodbye is it has to be one of the most favorite parts for me to want to sing, except that it was full of, you know, I don't really want to do this. And all that little scene right there of acceptance, I like it. Yeah.
What about you, Marquita?
I like the recit for I Love You, Porgy. I like the scene when she's come out of her delirium and she has to face the music of what has happened, and to see if she's going to have to go or if she gets to stay. You know, I like that it's a conversation.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that they're having a conversation, which are what lovers do. They have conversations. And sometimes those are very difficult conversations. You know, and then from that conversation grows this reaffirmation of their love.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a very, very powerful moment because she stripped down, you know, she is at the lowest moment. I mean, the hair is slicked. I mean, there's not the whole makeup. You're not glamorous. You're not anything. You are now just the bare bones of who you are in your most vulnerable state.
Absolutely.
But also, Porgy was asking some of the hardest questions there. You going? And she had to come to a lot of decisions in that
moment.
That's
but
right.
That was absolutely a very, I mean, that was very, you know, down to the bones, like you said, because he was making her face up, and she actually, you know, she became truthful. She said, "I can't help it."
That's
you
right.
know,
That's right.
I just can't help it. And you found this out in the duet in Kittywa, but you also heard it again that she actually had to confess it to. But you know, and that's where he decides that he's gonna kill him.
Yeah,
that he's gonna write him.
Oh yes,
that's right.
To a lot of decisions then too. So all of this is all
love that duet.
All of it. Love it. Mm-hmm.
Love that duet.
So more questions about the Broadway production. Did you see it? And if you did, what did you think about it? There were some lowering of keys. The story centered more around the character of Bess, as played by Audra McDonald. So did you see it? What did you think about it? Don't all answer at once.
As Martina would say, or Roya would say, notice the silence.
Got it. Got it. All right, moving on.
Next question.
Okay. So I want to know who was your first Porgy and who have you done it with the most?
Oh, that's an easy one.
Okay, Marquita.
My first Porgy was Michael Smart.
Yes.
I've heard so much about him.
Wonderful.
My God.
Wonderful Michael Smart. The man that could turn a handkerchief into a work of art.
Yes.
Wow.
The way that he would caress it and use it throughout the opera. It was masterful. Stupendous actor. So simpatico. You know, just amazing.
Yeah, he really was.
So happy that he was my very, very first Porgy. Okay.
Yeah.
The person I've done it the most with is Albie Powell.
Oh, Albie. Oh my goodness.
But
What about you?
There have been a sprinkling of hundreds of others in between.
including me. Including me.
Yeah.
My
Right,
first
okay.
my first Porgy was Andrew Smith,
Oh, the dearly departed.
the dearly departed. Yeah, and it was a last minute Bess. I was actually singing Clara, and Wilhelmina Fernandez was the Bess. And we had performances on Thursday and Saturday. I don't know why they had a Thursday and a Saturday, but they did. And they were sold out. And the demand was so high. It was at Columbus Opera that they added a Friday night performance. And Wilhelmina, of course, she said, no, I'm not singing 3 in a row. And so, and I was her cover. And so I was thrown into the deep end of the pool. And Andrew, who was so kind and so loving and so helpful, I'd not had a run through. He and Mark Rucker was the Crown. Charles Williams was the Sport and Life, and they came in on their day off and ran through the entire blocking with me so that I would know where I was going. And they literally just led me around the stage all night, you know.
Wow.
And then that led me to being asked to go and do it at the Spoleto Festival.
Yeah.
So for me, it was Andrew Smith. And like Marquita, I've performed it with Alvy Powell more than anyone else.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Priscilla?
I'm trying to remember who my first Porgy was. I think it was Bob Mosley. And then
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did a slew of ones with Michael Smart. My Met things went with Michael Smart, and with I did oh my God, I'm trying to remember all the Porgies I've done it with, but a lot of them with Michael, and Michael was also crown with me too.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael was just amazing. He was just a fantastic. He colored. He had so much color in his voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he pull back and bring, and he was just absolutely masterful at it. And but I think mine was Bob Mosley, and then I had quite a few with Michael Smart and Terry Cook. Quite a few with Terry Cook. So yeah, that's what I think. I don't remember.
Okay. So now that we're in actually an era where we should have been a long time ago, where Black voices, both on stage and off, are being amplified. And Porgy productions are once again the topic of conversation and controversy. Have you been in productions where you've had Black voices on your production teams? A Black director, a Black choreographer, a Black conductor, a Black scenic designer. Have you had those experiences, yes, and where?
Mine was with Houston Grand Opera. Hope Clark was the director, the stage director for that. I've been conducted by Willie Waters at Connecticut Opera. So those are the first two names that come to mind.
Okay.
For me, yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I had Willie Waters at Deutsche Oper Berlin, and
yes, we did.
And the Bregenfestspieler, you know,
with Wayne.
With Wayne, that's exactly right. You know, so that's about all I can think of.
I had Harvey. His name was last name was Harvey. He conducted us in Florence. You were there, Roberta.
Yes.
Remember Harvey?
Yes.
The Black we had?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. That's right.
Harvey,
and
Harvey Felder?
No. What's his name? I think he's out in Sacramento now. I don't want to say Lee Harvey. It's not Lee Harvey because in most things Lee Harvey was, but his last name was Harvey, and Black conductor. And I had Helene Head was our stage manager. We had Ronnie.
Yes,
Had
that's
Ronnie
right.
Claypool. We had all the ones in the back. Ronnie Claypool, Femi. Besides
And
Helene Head.
Marquita, you had Tazwell, right?
Yes,
As
Taswell
well.
Oh
Thompson.
yeah, I forgot about
Mhm.
Tazwell.
He's in Red
Yes.
Apple production. Yes.
And of course, we had George Faison with us at Radio City.
That's right. We sure did.
Brian and
And
George
and
was
Larry
doing a lot of
Marshall.
directing too. Larry
Yeah.
Marshall has directed it. I
That's
haven't,
right.
with Bay York, with Bay
Bayork
York.
Lee.
By your
Mhm.
And then you had, I'm trying to think of who else of color, but not many. And they've kept that sort of kind of like, with them. I haven't seen that many black directors. I haven't seen that many black conductors. Just little sprinkles every now and again, and then you'll get like maybe the stage managers or you know, assistant directors maybe. But
Mhm.
it's very, very strange how that. I've often wondered. And Hope, of course, you mentioned Hope. I had Hope
Mhm.
Clark on over there working with us as well. But it's not. There's not been a lot for me.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So, to the industry out there, you see this panel of accomplished, amazing, stunning, intelligent women. When you're doing your Porgy productions, because we know Porgy's going to be done because it saves lives and saves companies, and the companies
Does.
are going to need money once Corona is over. So be prepared for Porgy productions to happen. You need to contact these women to be consultants on your productions so that you can get it right. We need the sopranos who are putting on the red dress to call these women, to email these women to say, can I sit with you and talk with you and pick your brain and have coffee with you and talk about what it means, not just to be best, but to be an accomplished woman in this industry. So I'm just putting that out there real
Arts.
clear. Um, so moving on, you have all um, become educators. You've had these fantastic careers, sung all over the world, and you can all still sing, but you're all teaching. What brought you to teaching? And I know for Marquita and Roberta, you're teaching at historically black colleges, universities. What took you there? What was the motivation to go and give back in that way?
They're black folks. Just, I have to say, it was just kind of that simple for me. I wanted to share the knowledge that I have with young black people.
Yes.
People who I felt, and particularly in the demographic where Morgan is, there are so many underprivileged students that are trying so hard to make it on their own. And,
Yes.
it's important to me to be able to help them to achieve the goal that they say that they want. Not that I'm trying to, press upon them, but what they say they want.
Yes.
And if they tell me they don't want to be an opera singer, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just saying, whatever it is you want to do, I want you to have the work ethic to do it. And to understand that you will have many more no's than yeses. And that you have to toughen yourself up for that and not go and cry and stand in the corner and say, oh, I'm not going to do it. And then you're going to end up at McDonald's or someplace. I want you to understand that life itself is hard. And it's no different in the performing arts. So for me, there was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I'd much rather be with young black people who need examples, and I have clinicians come in who are African American to share their experience so that they can understand that there are a whole lot of us out there doing really well. And if I had it my way, I'd have somebody at that school every single week, talking to the students about what they've done, how they got there, to lift them up and to make them feel proud and powerful. I would do that if it was within my budget.
Roberta?
I never thought I would be teaching anywhere. My mom told me that I would. My mother was a teacher,
Mhm.
and she spoke that over my life, and I did. It wasn't that I dismissed it. I just never saw it coming, and I was at a point in my life in New York where I was struggling.
Mm.
I had been struggling for a long time for various reasons. Um, but I am I'm first of all a person of faith. That's number one. And then I'm also a person of courage. And I'm very, very grateful for my strength and my resilience.
Yes.
And I literally went to bed one night, and this doesn't happen very often. Um, I'm rarely brought to the point in my life where I'm so downtrodden that I'm brought to tears. Because as I tell my friends all the time, I have a pity party for about 24 hours, and then I start to get on my own nerves, and I'm like, okay, girl, get over yourself and keep it moving. That's who I am. But I remember going to bed this Friday night and literally crying myself to sleep because the weight of the world was on my shoulders. And Saturday came, and Sunday came, and Monday came, and I went back to a job that I had, because I always had a job. Because when you weren't singing, the bills kept coming. So I always had a job if I wasn't singing. And I always had a job where I could leave at the drop of a hat and then come back. And I got to my job, and my cell phone rang. And it was Elvira Green. And Elvira Green is wonderful mezzo. I met her at Radio City when I met Priscilla, and we've become lifelong friends. And one of the faculty members had died suddenly over the Christmas holidays. And I had visited and done master classes the spring before, and this was in 2014. And she said, "Are you busy during the spring?" And I said, I have a couple of performances, but what are you talking about? She said, "I need you to come and if you can, and help me get these students through this semester. They're going to be grieving. They've already met you. They know you. We're doing Carmen. I can't think of a better person to help me put on this opera and just to instruct these children." And so I said, okay. And I came, and the faculty was welcoming. The department chair was welcoming. The students were welcoming, and they started calling me Ma, and I was like, oh no. Now I can't tell them that because they all call me Mom, and I love it. But I went for that semester and expected to go back to New York, not knowing what I was going to do, because I had made a decision. I was leaving my 9 to 5. I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And the department chair at that time walked in and said, "Would you like a job?"
Mm.
And that's how a lot of my life is. I'm just sitting somewhere not minding my business. And then God will make things shift, and I'm somewhere else.
Mhm.
And I
That's
looked
right.
at him and I said, without hesitation, I said, yes. And I said, I just have one request, that I'm still able to perform when the opportunity presents itself. And he said, absolutely. And that was it. And so I'm so pleased to be there and to pour into Black and brown children like I've been poured into.
Yes.
And so that's how I came to North Carolina Central University. And then I
Wow.
inherited the choir, Lord Jesus. And that's another story all unto itself. But I love my choir babies. Love them.
Can I give a shout out? Candy, can I give a shout out?
Yes.
I wanted to give a shout out to Vincent Stringer and to Marvin Mills, because when it was Vincent who encouraged me to come to Morgan State University.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the person who, when he left, encouraged me to be the coordinator of the program and to run the opera program. And they're two of the most wonderful things that have ever come to me in my life post my career. And to Marvin Mills, who has been a dynamic coach for the program, and also who has played for my studio the years that I have been there.
Yeah.
And so, I'm just like Roberta, it just kind of all came together. It just all came together, and I was happy that I had two of my closest friends to be a part of that journey with me. So that's all I wanted to say.
Fantastic. And so, Priscilla, you came up with a word that I love. You said you are free tired. Can you explain? Can you explain to the folks what does retirement mean?
Honey.
Oh, yes, my dear. Well, first of all, I just want to say I want to thank Mr. Motley for walking me through the Department of Education way back when my licensing had to be all in order and everything, so I could sub, so I could do whatever on those times when it's feast of famine, those feast of famine times. And
yes,
sometimes we got a lot of stuff going on, and then sometimes there's nothing. So he encouraged me to make sure that was all ready, because I already had a license.
yes,
but I hadn't used it since those 3 years after college. So we had to go and get it back in on the right track again. And I was happy for that, because when my mom got sick, I had been touring up until 2002. And when my mom got sick, I decided to put everything on hold and go back into teaching in the Board of Education, where I could be here for Mom. And the last thing I did was a master class out in Iowa, where I had to tour, and I took Mommy with me. And I did a few things while Mommy, before I had to say I have to put Mommy, I can't take Mommy anymore. I did another few things that I took her with me to go and do. But it was all about going back into teaching. And I had taught with Boys Choir of Harlem right before, somewhere in between there, I was teaching at Boys Choir of Harlem as director of the girls choir. But then, the working with the Department of Education, I got to work with a lot of my kids, a lot of kids of color, and especially the last school I was in. I was so glad to be on the faculty there, because they didn't have but one of us. You know what I'm saying? Everybody else was, and I felt like, and I wanted to retire a couple years ago, but I said, I'm not leaving my kids here without somebody of color before I go. You understand? So just so happened that God put it on somebody's heart to hire 2 people of color this past year. And I said, that's my sign. And I retired myself after this pandemic came. I said, oh, no, this is the time to go. But before that, I tell you, I've had such a wonderful time gathering my kids and being equally, giving information and imparting or whatever to anybody. I didn't really care. But my kids needed some special inspiration to say, yes, I can do this. But I always tell them, my only concern with you is to get your technique together, because I want you to be able to sing anywhere that you want to. If you want to go to conservatory and spend your money in the conservatory, if that's what's pulling you, I encourage you. I really do. I don't discourage any of them. No. But if they tell me they want to sing but they don't want to do opera, I'm fine with it. Right. My job is to keep you inspired in music and to keep you technically ready. That's my job. You understand? That's my job. And I have them look at whole situations. I make them I said, if you go here, you're going to take a business course. You're not going to go and just take music. You're going to do music business. Maybe you might become a musical agent, whatever it is, because it's a very difficult world out there when you talk about the competition that comes from everywhere. I remember speaking to Daniel Washington, and he was telling me about there's like 60,000 people graduating in music and only 20,000 jobs.
That's right.
That is a very big number, and it's a very big obstacle to overcome when you're out here trying to have a career, especially as a person of color. So I'm very honest with my kids. I'm very honest in saying, I want you to be ready for whatever comes.
Whatever.
You know where your blessing is going to come.
Right.
And you need to be, your job is to be ready. Yeah. So that's what I've had the honor and the pleasure of doing with high school kids before they make that big decision where they're going to go in college, what they're going to do. And if they can be inspired, I make them look at YouTube. I say, okay, we're going to We're going to do your assignment now. You're gonna choose between these artists, and you're gonna do research on this artist. I have them go watch Leontine. I have them go watch Martina. I have them go watch Kathy. Got a big old picture of Kathy in there because I found it somewhere. And they have to. You have to go listen to all of them. Yeah. I have. They have to listen to Paul Robeson. They have to do their history, and then inspired after all of that, and I try to keep them. Even when we were doing remote, I said, no, you have to see this, because the Met put on those streams, and they actually had Leontine doing, I think was it Tosca she was doing. They had her.
Aida.
I said,
Aida.
I had them. I said assignment. So they have to watch, because they have to know that people have come before any of us, that whose experience and whose journey has allowed us to do what it is we do now. You understand? Listen, and even go further.
That's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to have this night with you, because these people need to know who you are. The whole world is not just Renee Fleming and Anna Netrebko. People need to know that the three of you blaze trails so that my generation and every generation underneath can walk a little easier and walk a little lighter. And so I have to say thank you to all of you for doing that, because we all don't just stand on Leontine Price's shoulders. We stand on your shoulders too. And so thank you for that.
Thank you, Kenneth.
I needed to say that to you in front of the whole room, in front of company, as they say. But so Priscilla, I would be crucified if I did not ask you about your conducting prowess, because now I have to say that I know that you are that you have talent to stand on the podium, because I have been blessed to be conducted by you as a soloist in Handel's Messiah on 2 occasions. So I know you know how to conduct and wave your arms and make some music. And I also know you know how to holler. However, what I did not know is that you knew how to do this. Now,
sing, Pris.
Now, ma'am,
only Priscilla,
only
y'all. Priscilla's crazy,
Y'all not
she
going.
Just does stuff.
Listen, y'all not going to have me tear my house up, throwing stuff at y'all. I'm not going to tear my house up. Now, Priscilla, I need you to explain that, ma'am. How did that happen? Listen, tell us, please.
I don't know. I just think that, there's a lot of things that we don't do because we think about it too much. I had to think about different things at that time. I didn't really have a chance to struggle over, is this how I see going to come out? It's going to come out. It's going to come out. I got to conduct this choir. I don't think I really put any pressure on myself. And I think that's basically what happens with us, is that a lot of times when things seem hard to us, is because we're putting pressure on ourselves. And there was just no pressure. I had my kids sitting out there. I didn't know they were going to record this. And what I learned from this whole thing was that you don't never going to place without your wig. And learn. The lesson is and your wig. That's what
Be ye also ready.
If
Listen,
I had
but
known
you
those kids were gonna record something, honey, I'd have had me another outfit on. And
be ye always, nowadays the folks always got the phones out. So,
Yes.
but the thing is, you clearly packed in your bag a few high C's.
A
so
few.
you were not,
Just a few.
so it wasn't that you were singing Mary Had a Little Lamb. You were hollering up. Like, who does that? I know folks who crash and burn just standing flat foot in front and not doing nothing else but singing.
God, I tell you, God sometimes sings to us, and that's all I can say. Thank you, God.
Listen, there were people who were going to kill me if I did not play
That's right.
that and talk about that, because it's legendary. It's so legendary. I get so much inspiration from it myself. So thank you for that. Yes, Laquita, I agree.
Hi, Laquita.
I agree.
Hi,
Yes.
Laquita.
Hi, LaGuardia. Hello.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
Oh
indeed.
my gosh.
So listen, I have had you ladies for 2.5 hours, and
Oh my gosh, really?
yes,
Oh, wow.
yes,
Almost
and I just wanted to not overstay my welcome, but I wanted to just say thank you. Maya Angelou said that saying thank you is the greatest thing that you can say to someone, because thank you is what you say to God. And so I say thank you for who you are, all that you've done, all that you've given to the industry, to our people. We are proud of you. We love you. We stand in awe of you, and you are worthy of every ounce of love and respect coming your way. So
Ken,
I wanted you to know that today.
we love you, Ken.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you.
So much,
I so love you.
thinking about us in this way. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you
Yes,
for asking.
Yeah.
gathering all of you together, because see, everybody knows the famous folks because that's what the industry decides they want to feed you.
Yes.
But see, I don't just shop at that store.
Mm-hmm.
I shop at all the stores. There's beauty in all the stores.
Yes.
And so, like, I have stood in front of Priscilla as she conducted me in Messiah, and I have stood on stage with Roberta, and then with Marquita. Roberta, you were in the first opera I ever saw. Jesse Norman was the first opera singer I ever saw live as a high school student. But also in my high school years, Opera Ebony was based in Philadelphia.
Oh my gosh, Bohème.
And you did La Bohème.
I was Musetta.
You were Musetta, and
Oh my
Geraldine
Geraldine
McMillian
McMillian.
was Mimi.
Oh,
Right. Gregory
And-
Hopkins
Yes. And
was Rudolfo.
yes, Gregory Hopkins. And was it Keith Crawford that was Marcello?
No, Mark Rucker was Marcello.
Mark Rucker.
Mhm.
And so, as a 16-year-old Black boy, they came and got us, and we were in the marching band. We were the supernumeraries. And I remember begging the stage manager to let me stand in the wings and watch you for the rest of the night. And I was transfixed, and you were so kind to me, and you signed my program, and I will never forget it. I will never, ever, 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 ever forget it. And Marquita, when I first met you at Connecticut Opera, doing Porgy and Bess, that was a tremendous cast, and I was absolutely blown away with you and Alvy Powell and David Lee Brewer and Angela Simpson and Carla Burns and Tim Blevins. Like who gets that for their first Jake? Like, who gets that? And then not 2 months later, I was in Bragans with you, and the way that you took care of me, you were so protective, and you told the vultures, you're going to stay away from this one because he's special and he has something to offer. And you taught me so many lessons. You said, when they try and close the door on you, you climb through the window.
Right.
And I have never forgotten that advice from you. You also told me, don't pay attention to the reviews, because if you listen to the good ones, you have to listen to the bad
The
ones.
bad ones.
Mhm.
That's right.
And
I never read reviews ever.
No.
Never read.
No.
yeah. And so I am so grateful. And then the night the night that I got to sing Porgy opposite you was so incredible, because I had done my homework with Alvy.
Oh,
With Alvy. Alvy said, now listen, when you do it with Marquita, this is what you need to know. But when the performance, it was at Deutsche Oper Berlin in 2008. And my good buddy Fikile, South African baritone,
Yes,
amazing.
Fikile. Yes.
He came down the hotel one day and he says, Kenny, will you please switch performance with me? I said, what's the matter? Are you sick? He says, no, I have Marquita again, and she make me sing so much. He said, I have my brother, can you please switch performance with me? I said, okay. And you, Marquita, you said to me, you said, we'll just treat this like a first date and we'll feel our way through. And I am so grateful for that advice, for that care and that love.
That's so wonderful. That is fabulous. That's what,
And Kenny, I have to say thank you to you, because I don't know if you remember or not, but it was within the first year that I had become the choral director at North Carolina Central, and you came and you sang "There's a Man Going Round Changing Names" with my choir. And he came into rehearsal and he talked to them and he was so kind. And then we began to sing, and he sat on the edge of he didn't stand, he sat on the edge of the stage and leaned and opened his mouth. And my kids did this. I said, come on, y'all, you got to sing. They were frozen in time. And that clip is on YouTube, and it changed their lives. It really did. And I thank you for that. And they still ask about you.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
but see, this is why mentorship is so important.
Speak about it.
Why for our students, regardless of their age, they need to see people who look like them,
Right.
doing what they think they want to do.
That's right.
You know, and it lifts them up in a way. Kenny, when you came and worked with my studio class there at Morgan, they don't forget that stuff. They never forget it.
They never forget.
They just take it and they gobble it up, and they just wait for more. You know, I'm really hoping, and it's my deepest prayer, and I've been praying this prayer for a long, long time. You know, I'm part of a generation where when Kathy Battle left the Met, they didn't want us anymore. You know, they didn't want us. All you had to do was look at the marquees, and you didn't see very many African American names anywhere. It was very hard to become a Black quote unquote star. It was hard to become the Black superstar. That was passé. That was gone. And we kept hoping and praying that one day it would come back. And I'm hoping with the Me Too and the Black Lives Matters that now we'll have African American soprano, a great tenor, a great baritone that will, you know, be in the books of the ages. I'm really hoping that will come back around to have another Black African American golden age. That's what I'm hoping for.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, I thank you so much for being here. I adore you all. Don't go just yet. So everybody, thank you for joining us here at Black Opera Live. I'm so happy that so many of you came out and showed your love to these amazing women. So again, join me next week at 7, where my guest will be the great bass baritone Kevin Short is going to be in the house with me next week. And also a very special Black Opera Live International next Friday, August 28th at 7 o'clock. Mark your calendars. We're going to be going to Canada, where I will be talking with 3 incredible divas that have a strong connection to Canada, because I was called to the carpet because I'm a self-proclaimed advocate for artists of color, particularly Black singers. And my Canadian friend said, well, hey, it's not just the Americans we want you to advocate for. What about us too, your neighbors up north? And so I answered the call. And next Friday, August 28th at 7, I will have Audrey Dubois Harris, who now lives in Canada. And also on the panel is the wonderful soprano, Toronto-born Ottilie Graham, and Misha Brugger-Gossman. So my three Canadian divas will be with me on August 28th at 7. So mark that down.
Yes.
And a week from today, we'll be with the great bass baritone, Kevin Short. So keep it live, keep it Black Opera live. And I love everybody. And remember, you have to vote, folks. And don't let this crazy orange baboon in this White House deter you by trying to remove these mailboxes. Because I promise you, you can go to your county clerk's office, you can go to your city hall and bureau or voter registration, and you can hand deliver your vote. And you can drop it off there, and they can track it and trace it and make sure you are counted. So don't let this be a distraction. We have work to do for the arts to survive, for people of color to literally survive. Because guess what? Over 30,000 Black people have died from this hideous virus.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Over 30,000 Black people.
30,000 votes. 30,000 votes.
And that's 30,000 votes that we no longer have.
That's right.
So the urgency, the necessity for you to be active and participatory in this process, it has never been higher. I'm sorry to cut in, Ken, but I don't know if it's legally okay for us to do this. But for those like of the aged who want to vote and not have any polls close to them to vote because they're closing polling places, like you would not believe, 400 polling places have been closed here in New Jersey. So I'm saying if we can go and collect for them, if they can't go and mail, is there some kind of way? I want to find out if it's legal for me to go and collect these envelopes that they could not possibly mail or take to City Hall or something. If there's something we can do that those of us who can move around, I know it's COVID, but protected, try to go and help out with this election, because they're trying very hard to have it not happen. Absolutely.
Right. They're really trying to make this not happen.
It's all hands on deck, folks. It's all hands on deck. Nobody can be complacent. Nobody can have time off with this. Until it's all said and done, until every last vote has been counted, and we get rid of this administration and we heal our country, heal our nation. And one of the biggest ways is we have to heal through the arts. And Black voices have to be heard in the arts, not just on the stage, but in the offices, in the back of the house, in the front of the house, in the pit, the costume shop, the development office, in the artistic. We need to be everywhere.
That's right.
But we also need to vote, and vote for the people that are in line with those interests that are going to keep the arts alive.
That's exactly right. No, you're absolutely right. And to our audience, be encouraged.
Be encouraged.
Be encouraged.
And thank you for being here tonight. I had so many people to hit me up, text me that they were so excited. Thank you for that love. Thank you and support.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, ladies. I love you. I adore you. And we'll see you next Monday on Black Opera Live. Thanks, everybody.
Right. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye-bye.